It's been a few months now since I purchased the Blackmagic Micro Studio 4K G2 camera here, and I just realized after watching back my own video about it from a couple months ago that I showed off the camera and I showed off some ideas for how to mount stuff to it, but I actually never turned it on in a way that showed you exactly what it looks like when I'm using the camera itself. So I thought I'd take a moment to do that today. I have the original Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K over here, kind of filming the G2. What I'm going to do is mount some lenses in here and take some top-down shots. So the first thing I got for this was the TTArtisan 50mm f/0.95. I talked about that in a video equipment film, but I want to actually mount this up and take some images with it. All right, that's mounted up. Let's remove the screw-on lens cap, old school. Let's just start recording here. I'm going to start recording on the Mini here. All right, so what's in here right now, what's mounted in the, you can't see my hand, what's in the G2 right now is the 50mm lens, and it is an f/0.95, so that's a pretty wide lens. So I'm gonna tighten this up a little bit here. I have no idea what I'm setting the f to because there's no electronics in this lens. It's literally glass, glass and metal. Oh, there we go. I can see a little bit of the focus assist there. All right, so there's a little bit. You can't see it, but I can see it. There's a little bit of focus assist, so I can see that I'm in focus on my ornament and crime here. So this is the 50mm, and you can see it is it's pretty tight. I've cut off maybe about 6 inches. 3 inches on either side of this Moog case here is how tight this view gets when you use the 50mm. So this is the one I would use to get super close in. Like I have some videos that I'm planning to do of ornament and crime, and I wanted a lens like this that I can get right up in here. And in fact, I can even lower this rack a little bit lower if I wanted to. I won't do it now. I think I have to be about 18 inches away from the subject with this lens in order to get focus. This is pretty big. If you look at it like this is a little ornament and crime screen on a 4K screen. It's pretty huge. It's a lot better than it would have been using the GoPro or even the iPhone. I mean, the iPhone, I guess, could have gotten in pretty close, but yeah. I needed a reason to buy another lens. So that's all it comes down to. So that's what this one kind of looks like. Look at the depth of field. Like here we're in focus. We're in focus right around here, but then I drop my hands down. They just immediately, like an inch or two below the module, I'm blurry. And I just love that. And I realize this is just standard photography stuff, but I'm not a photographer, so this is still thrilling for me. I think this is still pretty awesome. So again, the 50mm is for super tight shots. Another thing I do want to use it for is like when I'm going to demonstrate my synthesizers, like the UBXA, I want to have this camera, the mini camera, is going to be aimed just at the LCD screen so you can see what's going on as I'm turning knobs and whatever. And then I'll have either the iPhone or the big Blackmagic back here filming the rest of the keyboard and what's going on. But I wanted something for close-ups. And this 50mm, the lens itself is probably the real star of this particular segment because it is really tight. And I can get it a little darker if I wanted to. I can darken it up a little bit, get a little bit more focus there. So now I got the words are in focus, the knobs, the tops of the knobs are in focus. Oh, I should probably also mention this particular case I'm using. It is angled when it's sitting on the desk. So the top of the module is in focus, but the bottom isn't. So that's another kind of interesting thing. So here's actually a good way to segue into the next lens, that's because let's say that I wanted to fill this 60 HP little demo case here with some modules, but you won't be able to see them because there's going to be some over here, there's going to be some over here, and the 50mm is right here in the center and not really filming anything else. So here's where I'm going to switch now to the 35mm. So I'm going to turn off this camera. The 35mm is called the Brightin Star. I'm not sure what that even means, but here it is, Brightin Star, never heard of it before. And it's really tight going onto the body for some reason. I always feel like I'm going to break something trying to get this tightened. See how it's super tight? I have to literally turn all the things. to get the button to pop. And yeah, I don't know if I like that too much, but that's what we got. All right, let's power up. All right, so for this part, what I did is I swapped out the 50mm lens for a 35mm, so that's a little bit wider. Right now it's at wide open, so you can get the most light in here, just so you can see what this looks like to start with before I start toning it down. But look at how, again, we have the ornament and crime words up here are nice focused, but look at the bottom here is just completely out of focus. And it's only about 2 inches lower than the words would have been, so that's kind of an interesting dynamic. I really love the focus, the depth of field focus on these lenses. I'm going to close the iris a little bit here, just to bring the light down a little bit. Probably like that. So according to Focus Assist, this is where I have most of the module in focus. The only thing that's out is down here. And again, that's because this is at an angle. If I was to even this out, this would now be the whole module would be in focus. I could raise the actual stand up a little bit more, a couple of ticks up. I could probably fit the whole 60 HP case into this frame. And you know what, let's just do that. Let's not talk about it, let's do it. All right, one more. All right, there we go. Now, the camera is far enough up above the case here that I can now film edge to edge. So that's pretty cool. So the 35mm was purchased again to get it still get kind of close up like this, because here's the Moog case, but here's the rest of the opening of the modular. It's pretty big, so I'm still pretty focused down here on just this little case. And that's because I want to use this little case as quick demonstrations or my small wonders recordings that I hope to do eventually. And these very specific demos, like I want to do these demos of ornament and crime, or I want to do filter comparisons or whatever, and rather than mess with the entire modular up here, I could just pull a couple modules down here to use in a demonstration. So the very last lens to show off, or at least I should say the last one for this camera setup, because I don't think I'm going to put an anamorphic lens in the G2, and I don't think I'm going to put the big Sigma, I don't think I'm going to mount in here, because I would need the Canon converter, and then it would just be super long and heavy, and I don't think I need to do that. So the next guy up is going to be the Leica. This is the Panasonic, what is this thing? I don't even know who makes this. Who makes this? Lumix. Panasonic. All right, so this is the Panasonic Lumix Leica. That's another guy with a ton of names. Lumix G. This is the 15mm f1.7. So let me get that in here. This does have electronics. I can see here. They see the little copper thingies here. So I definitely want to make sure my camera's off for this one. So let's turn this off. Did you hear that? That was the sound of flying insects being murdered by 50,000 volts of electricity. Wonderful. All right. So now we have a 15mm, so it is really wide, really wide. You can now see from the edge, here's the inside edge of the overhead rig to the other side of the overhead rig, which is over here. It's a little off center because surprisingly there's no center hole here. That's bizarre. But anyway, so this is a nice wide view. So this one here, I can also aim at the modular with using a little clamp. I can actually get the camera aiming at the modular and get a little bit wider view, get a couple of modules in there, which is what I have done with this a lot since I got the G2. I have used it for regular modular recordings at a distance instead of doing the close-up stuff. The close-up stuff is coming next, but you know, the things I want to do on my to-do list, which is ever lengthening, by the way. So here is again the Leica, the Lumix Leica Panasonic G, whatever the hell 10,000 names he is. And again, we have our focus here. I can bring down the light a little bit so we can get a little bit more focus. With this lens, I actually have the entire rack is in focus. So now I can have modules all the way across. I could even have another little gadget sitting on either side if I wanted to. If I wanted to put it up here, I could lay a keyboard out in front, like my controller out here in front to play keys. So this is a pretty good lens for top down of like a synthesizer, or if I, like when I was doing the cables, like the NerdSet cable film, I was done with this lens and this camera, in fact. Anyway, this is what I would probably be doing with these 3 little lenses on this little camera in my setup. This is Editor JC popping in here real quick to say, I originally had another part to this video, but it wound up being a tangent of all sorts. So during editing, I decided I'm just going to break it into 2 videos. So I'm going to wrap this up right here and say thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next part of this series where I show the actual parts that I purchased and how I'm building a cage of sorts to help me expand on this little tiny micro studio camera. Thanks for watching.